more acquainted with one another, we are going to dive into more of the knowledge part of orientation. So my role for the next hour is to kind of give you a crash course into our master's program, really hit the highlights of what you need to know before you start the semester, and then you'll hear from some more folks after me. A lot of what we're going to talk about today is also in your master's student handbook. So if you're like, oh, I think Dr. G said something about this, you're going to be able to find the answers to your questions in that master's student handbook. How many of you have accessed the handbook already? Excellent. Okay, great. So let's just dive in, and first of all, I just want to say congratulations for getting into the program. If you're already thinking, oh my gosh, I never want to take a class with her, I hate animation on PowerPoints, this is the only time I ever do it, you will never see it again, so don't worry about that. But you can see that our counseling program here is ranked nationally by certain groups and organizations. We're ranked within the state of Texas. UNT carries with it a great reputation for our counseling students who graduate from here. You are going to be in demand in terms of looking for jobs. We are known in the state and in the region and nationally for producing great counselors. So, as someone who's also on the Master's Admissions Committee, I do want to say congratulations that you got here today, that we are a fairly competitive program, and so we get a lot of applicants every fall and spring, and the fact that you're here says a lot about your application materials, how you did in your group interview, and so first I just want to say congrats before we jump into all the info. So, yeah. All right. So, I want to start by talking a little bit about the counseling profession, and then I'll move into specifics about our program. The counseling profession is one of the helping professions, but has some unique characteristics about it. And this is our official definition here of what counseling is. So, professional relationship that empowers diverse individuals, families, and groups to accomplish mental health, wellness, education, and career goals. So what I hope you hear in that definition is that counseling can take a variety of forms. So some of you might be really interested in family counseling, couples counseling, others really interested in working with individuals. Maybe some of you are really interested in working with groups. And there are certain settings that may use different modalities. So I was trained in addictions counseling. That's where I did my clinical work, and we use groups all the time. So I got to do a lot of group counseling. We also had some individual there too. So there's a lot of different modalities of counseling and a lot of goals, right? So it could be you have mental health goals, you could have wellness goals, educational goals, career goals. So what I hope you see in that part of the definition is that counseling can really be for anyone. It's not just the removal of distressing symptoms, but it can be that I just want to enhance my life, I'm looking to increase my wellness, so I'm going to see a counselor. And that idea of wellness really sets us apart from some of the other helping professions. So we as a profession adhere to the wellness model, which is different from the medical model. So there are other disciplines that will say, what's the problem, what are the symptoms, and how do we remove those? And that's the medical model. We're all used to that if we ever go to the doctor, things like that. The wellness model is more of a sense of looking at our clients and seeing what's going well, what are the things they would like to improve, what are the things they don't want to change, how do we work with their strengths in order to enhance quality of life more holistically. So a little bit different way of conceptualizing the client. That's the model that we're working from. When we say wellness, that's really just this way of life that is defined by optimal health, and that's integration of body, mind, and spirit. So, as you can see, we can all improve in wellness. No one has ever arrived where they're just, I'm as well as I will ever be. There's always room to grow in wellness. So that's why counseling can be helpful for anyone. And I'll give you a lot of examples as we go through. Does this make sense? Any questions? All right, so the American Counseling Association. This is an association you're going to hear a lot about in this profession. This is a organization that is completely dedicated to counselors. So no one else in the mental health field, this is kind of our organization. It's nonprofit, been around since 1952. And what ACA does, the American Counseling Association, that provides us with our code of ethics. So if you're already starting to think about how do I work ethically with my clients, what do I do in terms of confidentiality, what if someone calls and asks for information, how do I deal with these things? ACA provides us with our code of ethics, so we always have this code book to go back to and say, what should I do in this situation? What's the ethical thing to do here? There is an annual conference, so Dr. Prosek and I are going to be going in April to ACA along with many of your other faculty members, and it is in Atlanta this year. So maybe you've been to Atlanta. I see that you're wearing Falcon shirt there. Yep. But about every 4 or 5 years, it's in Hawaii, so that's cool if you want to get there. One time it was in Montreal. I really love that. So if and ACA conferences are fun because it's counselors from all over the nation who come together and network, meet with each other, and learn from each other. So you go to conference presentations and learn some of the kind of cutting edge research in the field. So they also have a journal that if you're an ACA member, you'll get a journal that has that research in article form. And then it's also just a great way to network. You'll learn once you become a professional part of this field that the counseling world is actually pretty small. You get to know folks and network in different ways. Maybe you collaborate on some research projects, or if you have a client who is presenting with a concern that oh, I have a classmate who specialized in that, I can consult with them. So it really becomes a nice community to be a part of. So that's ACA. These are the aspects of the Code of Ethics that you have an entire class devoted to this, okay? So one of the parts of becoming a student here in our program is that you are going to sign an agreement saying that while you're here, you are going to abide by the Code of Ethics. And that's because this is a professional training program. So a little bit different from an undergrad degree, you are actually learning professional skills while you're in this program. So as you are counseling in this program, either in advanced skills, practicum, or internship, you are going to be required to abide by the ACA Code of Ethics. If you're thinking, how do I abide? I don't even know what they are yet. That's okay. You will take ethics 5290 and you will learn all about this. So how to construct that counseling relationship ethically, what to do with issues of confidentiality, what are your responsibilities as a professional entering into that relationship with your client, evaluation, assessments, and then what about solving ethical issues? So what if you come across an ethical dilemma, how do you make that decision? There's a model that you can follow, so you will be well prepared to deal with ethical concerns. Okay, so that comes from ACA, and the other thing that we have from ACA, if you look in your green folder, you have a list here of all the ACA divisions. So, do you remember alphabets? I don't even think they make alphabets anymore. Do you make that cereal? Really? You and me have never had alphabets. No. Saddest day in the world. I know. It's very old right now. 0 grams of I use the alphabets all the time. It's like an educational way to have breakfast. You're like making words with your cereal. But anyway, I'm going to have to change this because that joke doesn't really apply anymore. There's a lot of acronyms in our field. And so a lot of them come from the division names of ACA divisions. ACA is very large, right? That is a national counseling organization. In it, there are different groups who have specialty or specialty interests. So what I'd like you to do is just spend 2 or 3 minutes reviewing all the different divisions of ACA. Maybe put a star or 2 by the ones that you might be interested in. And then I'm going to have you talk about that with the folks around you. So take 2 or 3 minutes to scan the divisions that are available through ACA. just ask the folks around you which ones they're interested in, share which ones you're interested in, just for 2 or 3 minutes. Okay, let's go back together. So along with being a part of ACA, there are other ways that you can get plugged into this field, and it could be through one of these smaller divisions. When you have your panel of faculty members come up at the end of today, it might be interesting to ask which divisions they're a part of, so you can sort of get a sense of your faculty's interest areas in case you would like to work with them in some way. For example, I am a member of 2, so I do addictions work, so IOC, that's the International Association of Addiction and Offender Counseling. I'm a part of that division, and then also a CERVIC. I'm a treasurer there, and that is the Association for Spiritual, Ethical, and Religious Values in Counseling. So those are just ways I can get plugged into like-minded counselors who are interested in the same things that I'm interested in. So you have those divisions, so this is still the national level. Then you have the opportunity to get involved in the state. So how many of you are from Texas and plan on never leaving Texas in your whole life? This is what, I'm not from Texas, but I have learned that there are people that are going to spend their lives in this state, and that is very important. So if you plan on doing that, or even for the next couple of years, there are some associations you can be a part of that are just here in Texas. So I'm from North Carolina, that's where I got my degrees, and I was a part of the North Carolina Counseling Associations. I can tell you that the Texas Counseling Associations are so much bigger than the little associations from North Carolina. So Texas Counseling Association, it is a very, very large event because Texas is so big. All the counselors in Texas go to this. Elizabeth, when is TCA? Sorry, I'm
November. And
okay.
We're in a rotation right now. They've signed a contract with the Sheraton in downtown Dallas for every other year.
Nice.
So this coming November is the Dallas year. So it makes it really affordable for us because we don't even need a hotel room necessarily.
Right, yeah.
And you can still go. And they always need student volunteers as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then TASES is, their conference is in early March and it's always in Austin. And they now host a student research-oriented day as part of that conference, which is a lot of fun. And by we, I mean I host it, so it's really, I really want to be there.
I was going to say, Elizabeth's being very humble right now.
I'm not being humble. I will recruit you all to participate in it.
So if you kind of want to get your feet wet into going to conferences, possibly presenting, or just going and gathering information, the Texas conferences could be a great starting place, especially the ones in Dallas, in Austin, things like that. We also have divisions like play therapy, marriage and family, our algebatic, that's our state division. Algebatic, is that, I guess that's how you say it?
Yes.
And then also counseling, college counseling. So if you're interested in any of those, they have a state division. There are some of the other national divisions that are on your handout that also have Texas state divisions as well. So a lot of different ways you can get plugged in nationally and at the state level. And then finally, there's a couple of associations right here at UNT. So if you're thinking, this is already way too many acronyms, and how am I gonna join all these things? That is the goal right now, just to completely overwhelm you. No, I'm just kidding. So you are going to have a lot of opportunities to get involved in as much or as little as you want in terms of associations. You may wait until you graduate to really get plugged into some of these, but I want you to be aware of the field that you are journeying towards. So here at UNT, we have an honor society, so Chi Sigma Iota. How many of you have heard of that honor society? Okay, a couple of folks. So our volunteers that come in today and help with orientation, they are from CSI. And so CSI is going to give you a more formal introduction later on today. So you know how to become a part of that honor society. You can see that there's a lot of chapters internationally, 277. Here, our chapter is called Rho Kappa, and two of our faculty members, one that will be with us later on today, they are the advisors of that chapter. So they do a lot of fun things in terms of socials, but also have opportunities for learning, brown bags, those types of things. There is a conference. And when you join CSI, it's kind of a fun night that you have an initiation ceremony. We have a speaker who comes, you get cake, it's really good. Your families come, take a lot of photos, so it's kind of a fun event. So you'll learn more about that in just a little while. So lots of ways that you can get plugged in to the extent that you would like. Why would you get plugged in? There's a couple of reasons. So if you're a member of an association, a national association or division, you're going to get those journals. That's going to help you stay up to date on research. Again, that might be something that you're interested in when you graduate from here, is having that connection to current research. Also, a way to get plugged into conferences, if that's something that you like. I am a middle child, so I really love presenting in front of people and having like the attention on me. So I started presenting at conferences as soon as I possibly could because I think it's super fun. That might not be you, you might have to ease into it, but you have that opportunity through these associations to present at conferences. And it's also great for networking. So again, you're gonna meet like-minded people. So if you're interested in working with eating disorders, you can go to a conference with other counselors who specialize in working with eating disorders, connect with them, and share information. And like Dr. Prosek said, a lot of these conferences and a lot of these divisions look for student volunteers. They want to get students involved so that you can become members of that division and that association. So almost all of them have a graduate student representative on their boards. So speaking from a board member of a CERVIC, we always have a grad student rep who just gets to learn more about the organization. And then at conferences, you can get, at least through a CERVIC, you get free conference registration if you volunteer there. And that means doing some paperwork, working the registration table, things like that. So if you're interested, there are lots of ways for students to get involved in these organizations as well. Okay, one last organization you should be aware of is CACREP. How many of you already know about CACREP? How many of you cared about CACREP when you were looking at where to apply? Okay, yep, so CACREP is the accrediting body of counselor training programs. And basically what they do is set the bar for training programs and say, you need to make sure all of your students learn these things before they can graduate with a degree from a CACREP accredited program. So we are accredited until 2019. We're currently doing our re-accreditation, so we'll be accredited again after that. But what that means for you to know that you're coming to a program that's CACREP accredited is you don't even have to worry about, oh, is my training going to meet professional standards? Yes, it is. Because we are CACREP accredited, we are meeting all of those professional standards. That is going to be helpful for you when you apply for licensure, that rather than proving that you have been trained in these core areas, you get to say, I got my degree from a CACREP accredited program, and then they just check off a box. Okay, so you met all of the requirements for training. So that is really good for you, and it also means that when you take classes with us, we're never having you do anything that's just busy work or meaningless. It's always going to be meeting a standard that this accrediting body said, that's really important for future counselors to know. So what we do in our classes is very intentional, and you know that you are coming from a program that is meeting the highest standard in terms of training. See, they set the bar. That's just making sure. Okay, so how many of you are interested in becoming licensed someday as a professional counselor? Okay, great. So what that looks like here in Texas, you are going to get a master's in counseling, so from a 60-hour program. You need to have coursework in these 9 program areas, which again, you don't have to prove, you don't have to keep your syllabi, you don't have to, or you don't have to present your syllabi, because you're coming from a K-Prep program. Dr. Prosek is giving me the eye because sometimes they do want to see
Keep your syllabi.
Yes, so keep
I
your
think they do random checks every once in a while,
Yes.
so without a doubt, one of you will be asked for a syllabi for one of your classes. So
Yes, so keep your syllabi, but you're not going to have to defend that I learned this, this, and this in this class because you're coming from a K-Prep accredited program. When you're getting close to graduating, you're going to take this exam, the National Counselor exam. You can take it in the same semester that you take our comprehensive exams at the end of the program. They're very similar, so typically our students just study once for both of those exams. And then the Texas Jurisprudence exam is an ethics test, and so you will take that as well. Once you do those things, you're going to apply to the LPC board to become an LPC intern. So that's the first step in pursuing licensure. And then after you have 3,000 hours in supervised experience, then you would meet the criteria to become an LPC. Now, once you graduate from our program, those 3,000 hours, that is you working. That is not an unpaid internship. You do an unpaid internship in our program. But once you graduate, you can go get a job. What you need is a supervisor. So someone who can supervise those hours, and then you'll be able to get your LPC and be on your own, okay? And we'll talk more about that as well. How many of you think you might leave Texas after you graduate? Okay, so right now, there are different requirements per state for how to get licensed in that state. And so one of the things that you'll do while you're in our program is do some research. Like, so what state are you interested in going to?
Oregon.
Okay, great. So you would look up Oregon's licensure board requirements to see, am I getting those met while I'm in this program? And every once in a while, I know there's one state on the East Coast.
Florida does, like, you have to have like a sexual
Yes.
behavior class.
Yeah, that requires a particular class on sexuality, human sexuality. So you would just make that one of your electives. So while you're in our program, make sure that you're meeting criteria for other states that you may move to as well. And if not, and you move to somewhere you weren't anticipating when you graduate, that's okay. There are things that you can do to get your license transferred from one state to another. But if you already know this is where I would like to be, just do some research to find out what are their requirements. In my experience, so I lived in Georgia, I got my LPC in North Carolina. Texas has pretty stringent requirements for their LPC. So if you get your LPC here in this state, it's likely that it will transfer to many other states because they make sure that you're at a very high standard for the number of hours, getting 3,000. So that is, but you'll do all of that while you're in our program. You'll do that research, you'll make sure that your degree plan matches where you want to go after this. Okay, any questions so far? Okay. All right. Is anyone interested in pursuing school counselor certification? Great. Okay. So for our school folks, if you want to be certified in Texas, you'll get your master's in counseling. And here in Texas, you need 2 years of teaching experience in order to be a school counselor in this state. And that doesn't include positions as a substitute or teacher's aide. It needs to be an accredited school where you're teaching for 2 years. So you will pass the Texas Counselor exam at the end of your program here in order to be certified as a school counselor. Now, anyone on the school track can also pursue their LPC. So if you're interested in being licensed, All you have to do is take one additional course, which is our abnormal behavior, trauma and crisis course, and then you would meet all the requirements for pursuing an LPC as well. All right, so let's talk just a little bit about our program here. I hope you appreciate this slide. It took a little bit of time to copy and paste everyone's photo from the internet, but this is your faculty here. I'm looking for your picture, Edie.
It's terrible. These are some really outdated pictures of us.
This is what is on the World Wide Web, so.
This is
I think it's a great photo.
Dr.
It's a
Linda's hair is goes halfway down her back now.
So true, yes. So let's talk a little bit about specifics here. You can see our mission statement here. We care a lot about training you well, doing research that's going to advance the field, providing a lot of opportunities for you to develop as future counselors. We also have more acronyms here in our program. So we have two counseling centers here, so the CHDC and the CFRC. And so you are going to become familiar with those clinics. One of them is where you are going to do your practicum experience. So when you start seeing clients, it will be in our clinic here. I just want to tell you, in case you didn't apply to other programs, and not everyone knows this, but some people have to find their own practicum site in the community at other programs. You don't have to do that here. Here, you get to see your practicum clients in our clinic. So it's all on UNT's campus. We have the clients for you. You come in and work with them. You will choose your own internship site, but for practicum, that's done in-house. So that's kind of nice. We also have a Center for Play Therapy. How many of you are interested in play therapy, working with children? Okay. So it has a lot of great resources at that center. And then anyone interested in animal assisted? Okay, great, yeah. So we have some great resources here for specializations. And if your specialization isn't up there, we have faculty who may be interested in that topic as well, can get you connected. So have a lot of opportunities there. This is a slide I'd just like to share with you all, so you know in advance what you're getting into. So we survey our alums, so after they graduate from the program, and ask them some information about whether or not they have a job, if they were looking for a job, things like that, just so we can see how we're doing. So the 2015-2016 survey, we had 100% of those alum who passed the National Counselor exam. And the scores were one standard deviation above the mean. So you might be like, oh my gosh, I haven't taken the stats class yet, don't know what you're talking about. All that means is we pass, but our students also score significantly higher than the average across the nation. So what that means is we train you well. If you are doing what you need to do in your classes, you're keeping up with your reading, you're participating in class, you're going to be well prepared for your exams at the end of this program. We had a 100% pass rate for the school counselor exam, and then 95% of the clinical mental health graduates and 100% of the school graduates who wanted to be employed were employed within 6 months of graduation. So again, that speaks to job security and letting you know that you are going to be competitive in the job market when you graduate from our program. Okay, so most of you are going to be pursuing the MS, the Master of Science. That's our 60-hour program. That's for clinical mental health and school. For school folks, you have the option of pursuing an MED, the Master of Education, which is also a 60-hour program. Sometimes school counselors would prefer to have the Master of Education instead of the Master of Science. But most of you who are on the clinical mental health track, you will all pursue your Master of Science. Okay, so this is where you can start making some decisions about which track you would like to pursue while you are in our program. I don't mean you have to decide that today. I just saw some looks of terror. That's okay. You're going to decide that like this semester. So let me give you your options here. So if you are on the clinical mental health counseling track, there are 4 tracks within that area, and that's child, adolescent, college, or adult. Now, if you're on the adult track, you can be adult general or adult couple and family. So you have some options there, and this is going to impact the classes that you take as well as your internship experience. And I'll show you that in just a second. I always have the question of folks say, well, what if I want to do multiple tracks? So here's the advice I would give you at the front end of your program. Select one track that you would like to pursue. And you'll take those classes, you'll be in an internship specific to that track. If students want to pursue more than one track, that means that you would need to take additional courses and do an additional internship. So if you wanted the school and adult clinical mental health, that means that you are now doing 2 600-hour internships. So that can be a lot. One of the things I talk to my advisees about is if you graduate from our program with one of these tracks and you pursue licensure, you have the opportunity, I used to say you have to, but now I say you have the opportunity to get continuing education for the rest of your life. So in order to maintain your license, you have to be getting continuing education. So you can graduate from our program, and then if you're interested in working with couples or interested in working with adolescents, you can go to workshops, you can get trained in your continuing education hours in order to meet that need. So that's something you can talk about with your advisor, but right now I would really encourage you to select one track, and then you will create your degree plan in order to pursue that one track. And so you can see for our clinical mental health folks, we are preparing you for employment in all sorts of settings out in the community. Really, you will just not be trained to work in a school, but there are any other setting that's in the community, and at college counseling centers, you can be trained to work in those settings. For our school folks, that's a 60-hour program, and you'll be prepared to work pre-K through 12th grade. And then, of course, if you're interested in getting an LPC so that you can work in a variety of settings as well, you would take that one additional course. Okay? So a little bit about course sequencing. We are going to start everyone with the basics, and that's why I wanted to make sure at the beginning of orientation that everyone is enrolled in basic counseling skills as well as theories. That is going to be the foundation to get you started. Then you'll move into some courses that are going to add to that foundation, like career development, your ethics class. You're going to take a statistics research class, and as well as a diversity course. Then you're going to move into a little bit more of your track-specific courses, and then you get into your clinical work. And so there is a particular sequence that we're going to walk you through. You also have an advisor who's going to help you with your degree planning. But I just wanted you to know that there's a method for what we're suggesting. You take these classes first, followed by these, because they build on each other. Okay? So the clinical aspect of our program is really what makes us a professional training program. So you are going to have some classes where it's more didactic or lecture-based, where you're going to learn information like, for example, when I teach the theories course, that's a little bit more lecture-based. You need to learn what those theories are so you can determine which theory matches for you. But then we're going to have some courses that are much more experiential, and you're going to have your clinical courses where you're actually going to be providing counseling services while you are a student here in our program. So that's your clinical sequence. It starts with advanced skills. You can take advanced skills, typically if you're full-time within semesters 3 or 4. If you're part-time, it could be semesters 4, 5, or 6. And that's when you are going to start counseling a peer. So you're going to counsel someone else who is in this program, and it's going to be for full 50-minute sessions. So you'll have supervision, you're going to go through the process starting with a peer. Then you're going to move into practicum. Practicum is where you're going to be seeing first semester counseling students, as well as college students and members of the community who come to the CHDC for counseling. So that's when you'll be offering counseling services to the community, and then that will prepare you for internship. When I taught internship, and I would go visit with our internship site supervisors and just ask how are our students doing, what feedback do you have for me as an instructor at UNT, I get to hear how well our interns do. So we prepare you very well for internship. So by the time you get there and you're out in the community and you are seeing folks at a addictions treatment facility, or you're working with eating disorders, or in a private practice with someone there, you are going to have the skills and training you need to be a successful intern. So there's a lot in terms of our clinical requirements for you, and that is so you will be very well prepared to go out into the field. In each of these clinical classes, you will be getting supervision. And when you go see our clinic, we have a lot of technology that we can record sessions, and you'll watch your tapes, and supervisors will watch your tapes. And sometimes that's anxiety provoking for students to think, oh, I'm gonna be recorded, someone else is watching this. Again, it might be because I'm a middle child, but I was like, this is great. I need as many people watching this as possible. Tell me what to do better. I want your feedback. I want to be a good counselor, and I want you to see what I'm doing so you can tell me how I can improve. And so that's really what a clinical training program is you're gonna be counseling, you're gonna get feedback, you're gonna integrate that feedback, you'll improve in your sessions. So a couple of things for you to know about our clinical courses. They need to go in that order, and so when you get your degree plan, you'll see that they have to go in this order. You can't overlap, so you can't take advanced skills and practicum at the same time. You need to make an A or a B in those courses in order to move forward. And that's important, right? Because we don't want you to move forward and advance in your clinical work if you haven't met the requirements of the previous class. The other thing to keep in mind when you're doing your scheduling is that we keep these classes small on purpose. So KCREP, that accrediting body, has some limits around how many people can be in each section of these courses, because they want to make sure that you're getting good supervision, you have a lot of individualized time with your supervisor, so we keep those classes small. I just want you to know that we do everything we can to get people into the classes that they want every semester, but sometimes because of these limits and how many can be enrolled in each section of these classes, you may need to work with your advisor to create kind of a plan B of your enrollment sequence on your degree plan, okay? But we keep them small for your benefit so that you can have a lot of individualized supervision, okay? Any questions about the clinical courses? Great. All right, so we talked about this first semester. You should all be in 5710 and 5680. If you would like to take a third course, you have options. How many of you are already in a third course? Okay, great. If you have any questions about a third course and you want to talk to me during the break, I'm happy to do that too. And so one of the last things I'm going to talk about is how to become officially admitted into our program. So right now, we offer provisional admittance to all of our students who come into the program for their first semester. These are the things that need to happen in order to become officially admitted into our program. So the first one is for you to complete your degree plan. So you're going to hear a lot about degree planning in the next section of orientation, but this is something you're going to do with your advisor. So we're going to assign you to a faculty member who's going to serve as your advisor. You're going to come up with your degree plan, and you will turn that in your theories class. So your theories instructor is going to be the person who collects all the degree plans, will get those signatures for you. So that will happen in that course. We also need a signed understanding and acknowledgments page. So that's actually in your green folder. It is the last page of your Master Student Handbook. So don't initial and sign it until you've read the Master Student Handbook. Okay, so it's in your folder just for convenience, but we want you to read that handbook, know exactly what's expected of you, and if you're saying, yes, this is what I want to be in this program, I agree to these things, you're going to initial down the front and the back of the understanding and agreement page, and then sign at the bottom. So you'll also turn that into your theories instructor. Okay, so we'll get that on file. You also are going to complete 10 counseling sessions in your first semester here. Now, the only exception is if you're already in counseling, if you already have a professional counselor, then you can count 10 sessions if they were completed with the same counselor within the last 12 months. Then that will be sufficient. If you are not in counseling and you haven't had 10 sessions in the last 12 months, you can do that here. So there are quite a few options of where you can get that counseling requirement fulfilled here at UNT. We're actually going to have Dr. King, who is the director of one of our clinics, come in and talk specifically about that in a little while. Why do you think it is a requirement in our program that you receive counseling sessions, that you're a client? Yeah.
To understand what it is to be a client.
Nice, yep, so have a basic understanding of what it's like to be a client. We don't like to ask our clients to do anything that we haven't done ourselves. What else? Yeah,
Find ways to improve yourself.
nice, yes. So if you remember me saying quite a few times at the beginning that counseling is for anyone, it can improve wellness. You've never reached this peak of wellness that counseling wouldn't be helpful. So it's also a chance for you to have, now just let this sink in, 10 hours of someone listening only to you, paying attention to you 100% for 10 sessions. So again, I think that's awesome. I really look forward to those times when you get to have an entire 50 minutes completely devoted to you, to do your own work, to maybe address some issues that might pop up when you are counseling someone. And so there are a lot of classes that may trigger some of your own stuff. I teach the addictions course as well as the diversity course, and in those two courses, people are typically wrestling with some things or family of origin issues, things like that. Counseling is a great way for you to work through some of that stuff before you are sitting in a session with a client and your stuff gets triggered there in that session, okay? So even when you do your 10 sessions in your first semester for this requirement, it is really common for our students to go back to counseling in a different semester of this program. They're like, wow, I didn't know that that was an issue for me until I started with this practicum client that I realized I haven't worked through all my stuff around this topic, so I'm gonna go get my own counseling. So just know that that's a very normal part of our process here to seek counseling in order for us to become the best counselors that we can be. You also need an A or a B in your first two courses, theories and basic skills, in order to become officially admitted. So that's an A or B and faculty endorsement. So what that means is all throughout your program here, faculty are reviewing, evaluating, and looking at students to make sure that they are demonstrating those professional characteristics of a counselor. So it's more than just a grade on a paper. But what we're looking for is, yes, academic performance, so those grades matter. You need to be making A's or B's in all of your counseling classes. But we're also looking at professional development and personal development. Now, that may sound a little bit vague. In your Master's Student Handbook, you have an example of those characteristics that we are looking for, that this is a professional training program. So we are looking for evidence of professional development and personal development. Some students ask why we have attendance policies in our classes. I can just a spoiler, most of your classes, you can miss one class without penalty. Anything beyond that, you're gonna see a reduction in grades. Some students are like, why is that a strict attendance policy? We're in grad school. This is why. More than just grades, we need to be observing you. We need to see how you engage with others. We're looking for professional skill development, and we can't do that if you're not here and you're not in class. So that's why your classes are gonna have those attendance policies. And we're just looking for you to be moving in the direction of developing the characteristics of strong counselors, okay? And you'll get a lot of feedback about that throughout your time in the program of what are some of those things that we're looking for, ethical behavior, professional behavior, things like that. You also need a completed background check. So all of you should have done a background check by now. Is that, okay. And so how that works is we get the results of your background check. If there are any, if you have a history, any kind of criminal history, what we're gonna advise you to do, and you actually meet with me or will correspond, to get you to contact the Texas LPC board. And why we do that is we don't want you to start our program if you have anything in your history that might preclude you from getting a license in this state. So what we do is during that first semester, while you are provisionally admitted, you can go ahead and register for classes, you can be engaged in this program to the fullest extent, and you are going to contact the LPC board to say, can you review my criminal history and let me know if I'm gonna have any issues later getting a license. LPC board writes a letter back to you with the results of that evaluation, and they could say, no, we don't see anything that would get in your way of getting a license, or they might say, you might have some issues getting a license, this is what we recommend. So based on that letter, then you'll either continue in our program, or we'll have a discussion about, is it worthwhile to make some changes. So just keep that in mind. If you have a criminal history and haven't contacted the LPC board yet, I would encourage you to go ahead and do that, or send me an email, amanda.giordano@unt.edu, and I'm happy to help you start that process too. Okay? All right, I just have about 10 minutes left, so I'm gonna jump around and talk about just a few things in our last 10 minutes together. So you are going to be assigned an advisor, and that advisor is going to be paired up with you based on your interest areas. So during our break, that's going to happen in about an hour, you have a form in your green folder where you get to say what track you're leaning towards right now, what are your interests, is there a special population that you think you might want to work with, are you interested in animal-assisted therapy, are you interested in addictions counseling, what are some interests that you have? Again, this is not binding, we know that this is pre-class, so this might completely change. But give us an idea of what you're interested in, and that will help us pair you with a faculty member who shares similar interests. So we're a pretty big faculty. We typically have 13 or 14 faculty members here. So we want to make sure that your advisor is someone that you can maybe connect with in some way. So give us some details on that form, and I'll collect them after the break that we'll have in just a little bit. And again, if you're not sure which track you're interested in, just pick one right now. This is not binding in any way. It's just to help us assign you an advisor, okay? So that advisor is going to be your support person throughout your time in this program. They are going to be assigned to you, that meet with you to talk about your degree plan and enrollment sequence, what classes to take when. If you're having questions about internship sites, if you're really debating between two tracks, do I want to be child or adolescent, do I want to be adolescent or adult, your advisor is the person who can help you sift through and make those decisions. They are going to be the person who can answer your questions. And so as an advisor, a lot of the questions that advisees ask are in your master's student handbook. So I don't mind answering them over email or coming in and meeting, but if you just want to speed up the process, our master's student handbook is very thick because we have had years of hearing what students want to know more about and putting it into that document. So consult with your master's student handbook first, reach out to your advisor. One of the things that some students do, you can ask other students, but that's not always accurate information. You don't always get accurate answers from other students. Also because the LPC requirements in Texas have recently changed. We're constantly evolving our program to meet certain standards. So it might be something that someone 2 years ahead of you in the program, they did it one way, but you might be expected to do it another way. So I would consult with your handbook first, then with your advisor, and then certainly you can reach out to a faculty member of a class that you're taking and make sure you get your questions answered. But you should have a lot of support while you're in this program. Then we talked about that. This is a professional training program, which is different from maybe your experience in undergrad. Another way you're going to see this is when you are in our clinics. So our clinics have a dress code for you when you go. There are a good number of classes where you will go into the clinics and do a recording for an assignment, something like that, or even when you're going to see clients in advanced skills and practicum. We want you to adhere to business casual attire, and this is outlined in your master's student handbook as well. Those are operating clinics. So we have clients in the waiting room. They're going to be in the therapy rooms throughout the clinic. So we want to make sure that anyone who goes into those clinics is dressed professionally. Okay, so that's an example of what I mean when I say this is you are now in a professional training program. So when you're in the clinics, and you need to abide by the dress code and professionalism, etc. We talked about ethics, advisors. The other piece I want to mention, and you'll hear more about this as well, is registration. So how we do registration here, in your first semester, you are guaranteed a spot in theories and basic skills, and then there's a variety of options for your third course. From here on out, you want to make sure that you are aware of when registration day and time is here at UNT, so that you can, some people are right at their computer, so when that minute hits, they are able to select the courses that they want. Again, we work very hard to get people into the classes that they want every semester, as much as it's possible. So if a class is full, if you are really hoping to get into addictions counseling because you heard that instructor is like really cool and everyone loves her and she's just funny and you really want to get into that class, but you get there, write it, and maybe you had to check an email, something, got distracted, and now the class is full. Put yourself on the wait list for that class. And what we do administratively is we look to see which classes have wait lists and do we need to make adjustments. So perhaps we open a second section of a course. Perhaps we get a bigger room for the class, and so maybe we're able to override a couple of students into that class. We don't know if there's an issue unless you put yourself on the wait list, because then we know, okay, we've got students who really want to get into this class, so we want to do something about that. So be there, be ready at registration, but if you don't get into the classes that you want, put yourself on the wait list, and then reach out to your advisor. Say, okay, if I don't take addictions this semester, because it looks like it's full, if I don't get in there, what's another class I can take instead that won't disrupt my sequence, and I can take addictions in the summer. So our courses, a lot of them are offered 3 semesters. So you can take classes fall, spring, summer. We also have daytime and evening options. So one of the things that we try to do as a faculty is say, how can we meet the needs of the most students possible? So if you work during the day and you can only take classes in the evening, you can go through our entire program taking evening courses. If you are looking to be a full-time student here and you want to take daytime classes, maybe some evenings, some students like to take a daytime and an evening on the same day, just to kind of get it all knocked out in one day, we have those options for you as well. So planning your course sequencing, which classes you're going to take which semester, it's a little bit like Tetris. Do you remember that game? Okay, thanks. And so you're trying to get things in a certain, get them to fit in a certain way. I used to say it was challenging, but that kind of has negative connotations. So it's exciting and fun to see how you can get that to work. And if you need help with that, again, that's what your advisors are there for, to help you plan that. How many of you, I'm just curious, are planning on coming full-time? So you're interested in daytime courses. Okay, what about my part-time folks who are just interested in evening? Okay, excellent, great. Okay, and then we talked about as well how student review happens once, after your first semester. We'll have student reviews once a year for you to be reviewed in terms of how are you doing academically, are you making A's and B's in those counseling classes, and then how are you developing professional and personally. TK20, this is a software program that each of you will need to purchase. And this is part of our K-CREP requirements, is that we document certain learning outcomes. And the way we do that is you're going to have specific classes where you're going to upload an assignment onto this software program. So it might be a final paper, it might be a midterm that you are going to upload here so that we can show to K-CREP, yes, we're meeting your standards, our students are learning these things. So this gives you information on how to access TK20. How many of you have already purchased it? Okay, great. So you can do that online, you can do it at a bookstore. You only have to purchase it one time. It lasts 7 years, I believe. So you don't have to purchase it for each class. It's just a one-time purchase and you'll be good for the remainder of your time in the program. Okay. How many of you went to UNT? Okay, great. So you're familiar with SPOT, that's our student perceptions of teaching. So at the end of every course, you're going to fill this out for each one of your courses. Now, especially at the graduate level, this really matters. We look at these, we read through them, we want to make sure that we are offering the best courses that we can. So you're going to have the opportunity to give us feedback at the end of every semester. What went well? What would you like to see improved? So consider that just a part of your professional obligation of being in our program, is giving us that feedback at the end of every semester. Okay. And last but not least, we covered most of this. How many of you are used to writing in APA style? Okay, anyone do something other than APA, like MLA maybe, or, okay. Yeah, so we use APA in our program. You are going to purchase the manual as a textbook for one of your first classes, and then that is going to be your guide for writing for the rest of your time in the program. So any final paper, any reflection paper, you're going to be writing those in APA style. Now, you will have your manual, but there's also a writing center on campus that is extremely helpful. So there's a writing center that can help you learn APA. They can proofread your papers to make sure that they're in APA style. You also have a handout in your green folder that talks about active versus passive voice. I just wanted to give you an example of some of the documents that are online that the Writing Lab offers. So you have resources on campus to help you with writing. If that's something that you're like, okay, I know that's a growing area for me to be writing these papers and writing for class at the graduate level. So know that we have a writing center, writing lab here at UNT that can be really helpful for APA. The last thing I'll say is this program is unique because we require you to engage in quite a bit of self-reflection while you're in our program. So in order for you to be a successful and effective counselor, you're going to need to understand yourself pretty well. And so you'll get very used to hearing things like self-awareness and self-reflection, and you're going to write a lot of reflection papers, and you're going to be talking about how you feel about things quite a bit while you're in this program. That is can be extremely helpful. It can also be tiring. So if you think of your emotions like a muscle, you might get tired of working that muscle so much. So make sure that you have some outlets that you can recharge. So while you're in this program, you're going to be doing a lot of work. It's a rigorous program. We're kind of unapologetic about that because we really want to produce great counselors. So we know that it can be demanding at times. So make sure you have something in your life that you get to do for fun, that you get to do for you, something that will build you up. So I remember when I was starting my master's program and into my doc program, at orientation, like, oh, what do you like to do? And I'm like, I really like to exercise, it's fun for me. And they're like, oh, well, you're gonna have to cut that out because you're just not gonna have time for it. And I was like, challenge accepted, yes I will. And so I put it in my planner as something I scheduled into my life, just like I scheduled in other appointments, and maintained that throughout my grad program because that was what I needed. That was life-giving to me, and I needed that in order to be successful in the program. So know that you're going to engage in a lot of self-awareness, a lot of reflection, so just be thinking about what do you need in order to enjoy this process. We don't want you to just keep thinking, oh, as soon as I get done and I have that degree, then I can finally enjoy my life. We would really rather you enjoy your time here. And I think a lot of our students do. You're going to make really strong connections, not only with the folks in this room, but our other students that you're going to take classes with. You're going to have some really neat opportunities to do things professionally. You're going to get to engage in counseling really soon. That's just a part of, and hopefully that excites you. Hopefully that's why you're here, and you're going to get to do that in this program. So we think you're going to have a great time while you're here, and take care of yourselves as well. Make sure you ask for what you need, engage in office hours, so all of your faculty are going to be on campus at certain times throughout the week, and we are there to assist you. So if you have questions, if you want to talk about an upcoming test, if you just want a chance to process, then we are there for you to do that. Okay, lots of opportunities to get involved, I don't have time to talk about. Okay, so we are going to move into degree planning, and this is going to be helpful for you as you start thinking about that requirement for your theories course to complete a degree plan and get it on file in order to be officially admitted. So Ms. Rita Hay is going to come talk to us about degree planning. So let's give her a round of applause for being here on a Saturday with us.
I'm excited because I got the opportunity to admit you folks into the program, so congratulations on being admitted. We're excited to have you. On behalf of the counseling program staff and myself, we'd like to welcome you to the master's program and congratulate you on your success. We hope to move you into your next goal is to complete your degree plan. So as we go forward, first of all, now that you've been admitted, now we want to communicate with you. And so the ways that we communicate with you, everybody here should have a UNT email address. You can connect your email address with your personal email address. So make sure if you need to connect with both of them, please do, because it's vital that we get information to you through the UNT email address for you to connect with information like school closing, changes to your classes, road closing, any type of information regarding scholarship, etc., that the faculty or staff would like to present to you. Another way that we communicate with you is through Blackboard. Does anybody, who all knows about Blackboard? I'm sure the people who are, okay. Have you all access to Blackboard yet? Okay. Well, I'm here to help you. Okay. To have access to Blackboard, the way I've seen it done is going through the College of Education website. At the top of the website, you'll have tabs, and one of the tabs is Blackboard. You just click on that tab, and you'll see a screen that will ask for your user and password information. Once you're in the site, you'll see the counseling program screen, and you'll click on organization, okay? And then you'll click on the UNT counseling program. That's on the right-hand side of the screen. Okay, you should have access by now. So if you go home and just to be on the safe side before you start classes, we have a student list that we've added to the Blackboard site. So just check it out. If you have any questions, give us a call. Okay, to access the master student folder, on the left-hand side of the Blackboard site, you'll see tabs, and one of the tabs is going to be content, okay? You access that contact site, click it on, and you'll see a list of folders. And one of them is going to be master student information. So you click that site on, and you're going to see the master's handbook along with other information that you'll be accessing throughout your program. Okay? So once you do that, there's the master's handbook, the degree planning information folder. You have one that says examinations, because you'll be reviewing information about examination folder, your practicum and your internship site, as well as your criminal background check site. We have one for special problems that has to do with an independent study course that you'll take with one of the faculty member or the instructor, if need to be. That requires 2 sets of documentations that you will need to complete that process. You'll get your faculty member to review and sign and submit that paperwork to the counseling program office. Okay, the other has to do with the leave of absence form. Every graduate student has to be enrolled into the long semesters, which are the fall and the spring semesters. So if you are, for some reason, something's come up and you need to have absence, then you complete one of the forms with your faculty member. And so once you get that completed, it's going to go to the university for approval, the Toulouse Graduate School for approval, and then in turn they'll submit it back to you. Every student has to be admitted, enrolled during the long and the semesters, so you want to make sure that you're enrolled. And if you have any questions, contact the counseling program office. We can assist you. We're there Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. at any time. There's no such thing as a dumb question. Please contact us. We'd rather assist you in any way we can with a faculty member than have you not have any assistance. Okay? Okay, as far as the degree plan assisting, as Dr. Giordano was stating, the legal agreement form with UNT is that legal document on the last page she was talking about. That form is designed to assist you with understanding the UNT guidelines, the Council policy guidelines, and legal, ethic, dress codes, that you understand the course requirements, anything regarding the entire handbook to review, that you understand it from the beginning to end, so that we can assist you better in your degree accomplishments as you go through the program. You're going to get involved with organizations, you're going to get involved with clients, you're going to get involved with, you know, other aspects. And so we want to make sure that you're taken care of, you're protected, and that form will help you understand what's expected of you through the program. Okay? Okay, your degree plan must be completed within 6 years. We'll show you the degree plan that tells you about how to complete that form. Let's see. We have changed degree plan forms for you on the Blackboard site under the degree heading. Your degree plan is a contract between you and the university, okay? And we're going to have set guidelines to each track. It's actually going to be a type form already for you. You just have to complete the rest of the data that pertains specifically to you and how you want to complete your information. And we'll show you that as we go along. Okay, yes. As you can see, the highlighted options there are the ones that you complete. Down at the bottom, yes, your name, okay, and then that's where you fill in your elective classes. So each track is located on the degree plan site, and it's already pre-typed for you. But there's certain aspects like major professor there.
That's your advisor. Your major professor will be your advisor.
Okay. The university has guidelines for you to complete that, and they want you to specifically say doctor, first name, last name, okay, in that order. Your UNT ID number, and down below is where you sign it, and where you sign the form, and that's where you put down your time of when you plan to complete your degree, which will be spring of 2018, starting to 6 years. And the reason why we say go to the long term is just in case life goes on and life gets in the way and can change that process. So we want to make sure we give you ample time to complete your degree as needed, because once that's done, that's a confirmed type of degree system.
And if I can just elaborate on that, because as someone who teaches the theories class, that's a question that I get a lot. At the bottom of this form, it's going to say, what semester are you starting and which semester are you ending? And just like Rita said, is anyone bringing in credits? Is anyone, a couple of folks? Okay, so you're a particular scenario, but for everyone, and I'll talk about that in a second, but anyone who's not bringing in any credits, you're going to say, I'm starting spring of 2018 and I'm ending spring of 24, yes. So you'll all say spring of 2024. So that's not, oh, I really want to be done in 3 years, so you're going to put the whole 6 years, and then you can graduate anytime in there. If you're bringing in credits, the few of you that are, your 6 years starts when you took that first class that you're going to be transferring in. So if you took a class 2 years ago and you are counting that course and you're transferring in, then you're starting spring of 2016, and then you have 6 years from that date. Okay?
That's good to know. Thank you for that. That's good. Okay. So this is what you're going to turn into your CON 5710 instructor. There are 3 documents that you turn in: the legal form, the memorandum, your degree plan, and your 10 counseling sessions. That when you complete your counseling sessions, your counselor will submit a written documentation stating that you have completed those 10 sessions, and that's all we need to know is the written documentation. You don't want to know about the sessions, you don't write it on the sessions, so it's just the documentation that we need to confirm that you've completed the 10 sessions. And you'll turn those documents into your Con 57 teacher at the end of the semester. Okay, to help guide you through the process of being proactive to assisting you with course scheduling, the counseling program has designed this course sequence by semester schedule. We have classes during the fall, spring, and summer, and this will help you design what classes you can implement into your degree plan and how to plan. It's pretty much concrete, it's been consistent, it's a quality program. They foresee whatever they needed to foresee down the road. If there are any changes, definitely we'll definitely communicate with you that process.
And this is in your handbook as well,
Yes.
this page here. So all the pages we're about to show you, you're gonna have this in your handbook.
Okay, now, as part of the planning, we want to give you as much information about prerequisites. What classes go along with, to include what you should need to take before you can go to the next level. Especially when you get closer down to your practicum information. Those are the classes that are required for you to complete. You take your practicum, and then you'll take your internship 5720 and then 5721 individually. They're never consecutively. Okay? Okay, recommended course sequence by track. Okay, this is a good schedule. Anybody have any questions or? Okay, so everybody takes the same classes as of your didactic classes for 5790. Okay, and then you break them into the various levels of where you want to receive the training. And then as you see, the 5660, 5690, and 5720, and 5721 for counseling, counseling certification. At some point, we're going to be checking to see what classes you've accomplished, what classes you've completed, so that when we work with the UNT Texas board office that assist us to help you get certification. So at some point, we'll be monitoring your classes to make sure that we get you in the schedule to get the teacher's counseling certification accomplished. That takes time as well.
Yep.
What else today?
Yeah, one of the things that is helpful with this document here, and this is actually a little outdated, I forgot to update this one with the new one in the handbook, so school is 60 hours, not 48 up there. You see the list of numbers here, we call those like the level of your courses. So we suggest that you take your level 2 classes first, level 3s, and then level 4s. That's not always possible, so there may be a time when just scheduling wise, you have to take a level 3 before you finished up all of your 2s, and that's okay. We just want to give you a little bit of guidance around which classes to start with and then which ones you're going to move into because they become more advanced. So your elective classes, abnormal systems, addictions, those are your level 4 classes. You should be taking those towards the end of your program. Most of you, in the summer, if you're going to take classes in the fall, you're going to finish up your number 2s. So you're going to take diversity, you're going to take career, you're going to take ethics before you would take these number 4 courses. So we know that there's a lot for you to think about when you're coming up with which semester am I going to take which class. We wanted to give you this as a little bit of guidance. So take your number 2s before your 3s and then your 4s the best that you can. Okay? What questions do you have about sequencing at this point? Doing good? Okay.
The good news is you have time to think about it throughout the first semester till the end of it. Because sometimes you'll go through the training of 57 theories and see all the different types of theories, and you could change your mind. It's, you want to go down a different path. Okay. So here are your choices for electives. I know they're not, some of them are not much, but bear in mind, the requirements of those electives is to assist you to get your certification. Those are ones, as you see, the elementary, the school counseling, adult track, and you can check. And I think with the approval of your main professor, that I know sometimes some folks want to go down to marriage counseling criteria, so they'll go ahead and approve them to take some classes, a little bit range differently in their program, but with the approval of the main professor, that you can kind of go in that direction.
Yep.
Because I know there's like certification for FMLT later on down the road. It's good to get your LPC and then get your FMLT after you complete your LPC.
Yes. So, Rita's exactly right. If you want to take an elective that's not listed in your track, you need advisor approval to do that. So if you're on the adult track, but you would like to take intro to play, which is not one of the listed electives, but if that's something that's important to you, is I want to be trained across the lifespan, I'd like to take a play course, you just have to talk to your advisor and say, can I take this elective instead? So again, keep up with your current handbook to see how many electives you get on your track. So for example, on the clinical mental health adult track, you have 3 electives. So you get to pick 3 of the approved elective classes to make your degree plan a little bit more specialized to you. So the things that you're really interested in. And that's when you might take animal assisted, you might take one of our electives that's offered in the summer. We've had dream work and transpersonal counseling. We've had wellness counseling before. I'm offering a process addictions class this summer. So there are things that you can take that you are interested in. You're gonna cater your degree plan to yourself. There are other tracks like the child track, adolescent track, where you might not have as many electives because there are certain play courses that they want you to take. So make sure you check in your current handbook to see how many electives you have for the track that you're interested in, and that's what you're going to fill in on your degree plan. So just like what Rita said, when you turn this degree plan in, you're not actually doing a lot of work. It's a template, so it's already typed out for you. What you have to decide is which track are you interested in, because that's the template you're going to use, and which electives are you going to take. So those are the decisions for you to make in your first semester. And then the other piece that you'll do with your advisor is, when am I going to take all of these courses? So you'll develop that sequence with your advisor. That is not what's turned in. The contract that Rita was talking about between our program and the graduate school, that's this degree plan. They don't care when you take the classes, but when you graduate, or when you apply to graduate, they are going to pull your transcript and they're going to pull your degree plan and make sure they match exactly. So if you have taken a course that's not on your degree plan, you're going to have to address that before you can graduate. And like Rita said, if you're halfway through our program and decide, I said I was going to take couples counseling, but that doesn't fit in my schedule anymore, now I need to switch to family counseling, that's fine. It's one form that you fill out to drop a course and add a course. But you want to make sure when you apply to graduate that your transcript and your degree plan match.
And that degree form is on the website. It's a degree change plan form.
Yes.
That you get your main professor to sign. Don't forget to fill it out, because that really makes a big difference by the time we want to compare your degree plan with your transcripts. We'll get a call from the graduate school. We don't want any delays at graduation. So it's just keeping abreast. The information is on the Blackboard site, so all that information is there for you folks. And if you're in doubt, contact our office. We're here to support you. We're here to assist you with your course information. It's addressing with the, assisting the faculty. We're on your team to be successful, to get you to graduate. There's a lot that gets in the way, and processes happen in classes and all. We want you to be successful. So we're here Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. Just visit our office, and we'll assist you in any way we can. Okay?
Right.
I'm sorry, you were my first class doing this, so I'm a little nervous.
Do you have any questions for Rita before we move on? Any questions about degree planning?
So you have to ask for advisor before you put on your degree plan an elective that's outside of your program?
It's always good, yes. And if there are classes not on there, I know, like I mentioned, there's that special problems form that you can incorporate with, I mean, you can talk to your advisor, and you can come up with the course information that you can do an independent study course together to assist you to what you need to get out of your degree perspective.
Yep.
And so but that title has to be on your transcript, so we want to make sure it's documented correctly. So you do have to complete the paperwork, on the special problems paperwork. Work with your major professor and get that form signed, and we have a program coordinator that signs it. It goes through a channel of signatures before it goes over to the graduate school, but we'll make sure it gets there. Those special problems are due within the first 2 weeks of the semester. So, within the 2 weeks of the beginning of the semester, make sure we get that special problems form completed. Okay?
And if there's a class that you want to take that is just not approved for your track, you just have to just tell your advisor the reason why you want to take it. So if I had a student come to me and say, this isn't an approved elective for my track, but I might want to work with couples, I'm really interested in that, and I'm on the adolescent track or I'm on the child track, and you have a reason for why you want to take that, most advisors are fine approving that. The other thing is sometimes I'll have advisees ask if they can take an elective outside of our program. And so especially if you plan on going to a state other than Texas and you need a human sexuality course or something from the psych program or rehab counseling that we don't offer, that's another thing that you just need advisor approval to put it on your degree plan.
Any other questions?
So I guess, so if the advisor approve a course that is not necessarily on the right, track, when they approve it, I'll automatically go to this, so when you apply for a question, I say, okay, well, he approved this, so you took this, so.
Yep, they would approve it before you put it on your degree plan. And then once it's on your degree plan, you're good. That's when you apply to graduate, they're gonna see that it was already approved. Yeah.
We're going to review your schedule because we want to make sure whatever class you change is on the guidelines of what your degree, where you need to get that accomplished, and that whatever class you take meets other prerequisites. So that's why we work with you. Okay.
Are there electives someone can take, maybe an additional course, so that they can go down, essentially getting everything for 2 tracks, like adult and college?
So if you wanted to take additional coursework, you're welcome to do that. You are required to take 20 classes while you're with us. But if you want to take 21 or 22, you can do that. In order to be endorsed for 2 tracks, that's where you would have to take all the classes on both tracks as well as internships that meet those requirements. So you're looking at 3 or 4 additional semesters in order to do that. So we would say pick one track, but if you want to take an additional course because you're really interested, you're fine to do that. But most of our students take the 20 and then get the other information through continuing education when you graduate.
All right. Is that it?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you
Well,
so much.
thank you very much. I look forward to seeing you.
Okay, so I want to talk through just a couple of things as someone who teaches theories, give you some helpful hints as you go through this degree planning process and are going to turn this into your theories instructor. So timing, within the next 2 to 3 weeks, you should have an advisor. So you're going to fill out that document today, turn them into me. I'm going to get those to our program coordinator, Dr. Natalia Lindo, and she is going to assign you to an advisor. So you're going to meet with your advisor as you are doing your degree planning. Okay, that's actually going to be a requirement in your theories class, is that you meet with your advisor. Let them know who you are, say, I'm really interested in this track, and if you have some confusion and you want their help deciding between tracks, you're welcome to have that conversation with them. About mid to 2/3 of the way through the spring semester, you're going to turn in your degree plan to your theories instructor. So at that point, you're going to need to know which track you're on and which electives you're interested in. It might be that at the end of the day today, when we have our student panel, if there are some track-related questions or course-related questions that you want to hear from students who've already taken those courses, you're welcome to chat with them. You're also going to have the opportunity to get a student mentor, and that might be someone, I know that's a huge spoiler, Joey's already given me the eye that I'm spoiling that for you, but he'll talk about that later on. And that might be someone that you can talk to and say, so tell me about the DreamWorks class. What is that class about? Or what was family like? Did you take the family class? Help me understand what that course is about. So you're going to have a sense of which classes you want to take about 2/3 of the way into the spring semester. So after you meet with your advisor, one of the things that your advisor is going to want to do with you is say, tell me what you want to do when you graduate. That's a good starting place, is what setting do you want to work in, what population do you want to work with, and then let's make your degree plan match that. So you're going to have that conversation. When you start looking at which classes am I going to take which semester, that's where the fun comes in. And to do that and be successful, you want to use this document in your handbook to know which semester courses are offered. You're going to want to use this document to make sure you are taking the right classes in the right order, so you have all your prereqs done. And then, of course, this document that is going to tell you the levels of those courses. So a lot of my advisees, they'll have all three of these documents kind of out in front of them as they're planning which courses am I going to take which semester. And so again, your course sequence, that's between you and your advisor. That is something that's just helpful for you. That could change. It often does change. You have students who say, oh, I thought I was going to take 3 classes in the fall, but life happened. Now I'm only taking 2, so I'm changing the sequence. You only have to make an official change if you are dropping or adding a class to your degree plan. That's something that you need an official document. If you're just changing the semester you planned on taking it, that's fine. No one needs to know that between you, other than you and your advisor. Yeah.
What's the recommended number of hours to take each semester?
That's a great question. So if you are full-time, you're typically going to take 3 classes a semester. There may be some semesters where you take 4. This is what I say as an advisor. For my students, you want to take 4 classes a semester. I say, are you working? If you are working, then I really do not recommend you take 4 classes. So 4 graduate level classes is going to be a full semester. If you're full-time, you're not working, you're like, I'm ready for it, okay, you can talk with your advisor. They can also help you decide which courses have an out-of-class component that might be more time and which ones are maybe better to take together. So talk with your advisor about that, but typically 3 to 4 if you're full-time. And then part-time students take 2, some semesters they take 1. They could take, if you're on the school track and you want to fit 3 in the summer, you can do that. So there, you have some flexibility there. I think you have to consider out-of-school responsibilities, and then how much time are you going to need so that you can be successful in your courses, not just kind of barely get by with a B, but you want to be able to produce your best work. So does that mean you take 3 or you take 4? If you're taking 3 this first semester, that's our official department recommendation if you're full-time, is to start with 3. That will be a good gauge for you. If you take these 3 and you're like, I have a lot of time, I think I can add on a 4th class, then that can help you plan for fall or summer. If you're like, okay, I'm taking 3 and that is all I can handle, then that's great. That lets you know, okay, for graduate level, 3 is good for you. One of the other things I would add is if you plan on taking classes over the summer, those are condensed classes. So rather than the 15, 16-week long semester, you're taking the same class in 10 weeks. So your classes are going to be 4 hours one time a week instead of 3 hours one time a week. And you're going to have shorter amounts of time to get your work done. So you might have had 3 weeks to write a paper in the long semester, you've got 2 weeks in the summer. So that's something else I talk about with my advisees, is if you're going to take classes in the summer, how many do you want to take so that you think you can be successful, knowing that they're going to be condensed?
I was gonna ask that, are the tracks based off of summer classes as well, or just?
A lot of our students take classes in the summer. You're not required to, but we are a 3-semester program, so we always have classes offered in the summer. So again, that's something that's kind of up to you. I've had students who have a big life event going on in the summertime, so they might take a summer without taking classes. Others might just take 1 or 2, and so it's really up to you. You have some flexibility there. Yeah.
So during that time where it's the 4 consecutive semesters, does that also mean like fall, spring, summer, or just fall, spring?
Yes, so it's typically fall, spring, summer, except practicum is not offered in the summer. So that's a really good question. Those 4 need to, you have to take one before the other, but if you have a semester gap, that's okay.
Okay.
So if you take advanced skills in the spring, you would wait until fall to take practicum because it's not offered in summer. But typically, we like to get those 4 as close together as possible, just because they're building off of each other. But especially if you're on the part-time track, you might have a semester where you're not taking clinical classes. And then when you jump back into clinical, you'll take that next one, like practicum. Yeah.
So the practicum and internship, are you actually meeting in a classroom setting as well as doing your hours for both? of
Yes,
those?
great question. So practicum, yes, you have your practicum class, and it's not really, you're meeting in a room in our clinic. So it's not like a classroom where you're learning from PowerPoint, but it's gonna be supervision and smaller class instruction. And you're gonna be, so in practicum, you'll see clients during your practicum class, but you'll also see clients outside of that. And so typically, you need 2 blocks of time to be able to see clients. So you'll have supervision and client time during your practicum class, and then another block where you'll see clients as well, outside of that class time. Internship, you're gonna spend 20 hours a week at your internship site, but you're also gonna have an internship class here on campus, and that again is supervision, and that meets every other week.
Okay.
Yeah.
See that the appraisal and adult counseling is a 5-week too instead of a 10-week?
Yeah.
So that, is it even more condensed?
Yes, that meets twice a week. So some people really like the 5-week 2 option because you get it done in those 5 weeks. You can have the rest of your summer to kind of breathe and do other things. But during those 5 weeks, you will be having class 2 times and obviously shorter time for assignments. Yeah, but most of our summer classes are 10-week. Yep. Yeah. Any other questions about scheduling or course sequencing? Okay. When you hand this form in, again, about 2/3 of the way into the semester, just a couple of things that you can catch on the front end so you don't get this back to you and then have to fix it. Make sure you're using your UNT ID. Every once in a while we have someone put their social security there. We don't want to know that on this form. Just put your UNT ID. Make sure you have your correct advisor. So it's not just your instructor for the theories class. It's the advisor that's assigned to you. Your electives, you're gonna, depending on the template that you're using, it's gonna show you how many you have. So you'll either have 3, 2, or 1 options there. So fill that in with an approved elective. And then the last thing that gets tricky for folks is those dates. So at the bottom, make sure that you say you're starting spring 2018, you'll end spring 2024, unless you're bringing in those classes. Yeah.
If you decide to kind of change tracks, will your advisor stay the same or will you get a new advisor?
Typically, we are knowledgeable about all of the tracks. We just have different specialty areas. So I have advisees who switch halfway through, but they're like, I've been working with you for 1.5 years. I just want to keep working with you.
Yeah.
But you're welcome to switch advisors if you want. So if you want to go to the school track, you can go to one of our school people, and that's totally fine. A lot of them choose to stay just because they have that relationship.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Trying to think if there's anything else that comes up question-wise from students. Yeah.
So for the first couple of semesters, if you're full-time, are there times where you can be on campus outside of class times?
The first couple of semesters, I can't think of an example. The ones that have out-of-class components are going to be your clinical classes primarily. Group has an out-of-class assignment, practicum does, obviously, your internships. Yeah, I can't think of any classes that would require something on campus outside of class time. Obviously, when you have group projects and things, you'll be meeting with folks outside of class, but not in a formalized way. Yeah.
Is that with the exception of if you are doing your 10 counseling sessions in the first semester at the?
Yes, thank you. So that is a requirement. If you do your 10 counseling sessions here, that's outside of class, so that's not in any class time. When Dr. Ting is here, she'll bring in the schedule of our clinic, so you can see when you might be able to get those sessions. They have later evening hours, they have hours right before class times. If you wanted to do your counseling session right before you go into a class, that's a pretty popular time. But aside from that, yeah, thank you, that's good. Yeah.
Is there a form you have to fill out for like, you said like if you already have like a counselor, then you can add those hours?
Yeah, so, there isn't an official form. We basically need a document on your counselor's letterhead that says, I have seen blank for 10 sessions between the dates of this and this. And as long as that's within the last 12 months and you've done 10 sessions with the same person, that's all we need. And that person, if you have an outside counselor, they just need to be licensed. So they need to be a licensed professional counselor, or they could be a LPC intern working under supervision. So make sure their credentials are on the document too.
Psychiatrist?
Yep, that would work, yeah. As long as you're getting 10 sessions with that same person and they have a license, then that's fine. So you will just bring that to your theories instructor, and then you'll have that requirement done. Yeah. Okay, let me run through and make sure those are all the questions I typically get asked. Just like Rita said, we change the days that courses are offered sometimes, but we will let you know that. And so typically, you'll get this from our program coordinator. She will send out a spreadsheet that has the scheduling of when these courses are offered. We do not have classes on Fridays. So, although that's great that you don't have to have class on Friday, that means we only have Monday through Thursday to work with in terms of scheduling classes. So there are semesters where classes overlap. What we try to do administratively is make sure that level 2 classes are not offered on the same night. Instead, it might be a level 2 class is offered on the same night as a level 4, because odds are you're not going to take both of those in the same semester. So we work hard to try to make that work for you, but that's something else you're going to check each semester is when are these courses offered, and make sure that they're not overlapping. Okay, so your handbook has the most updated list, and then we'll send emails. Prereqs we've talked about. Okay, our electives tend to change as well, typically summer electives, and it really depends on which faculty members are here and interested in teaching a specialty area. They might develop a course. So again, you'll get all of that information as it comes out. Okay? So, you have been here for a few hours and are about to go on break, but I'm curious if you have any questions so far about our program, what's being presented to you today. Yeah?
Where can we find our assignments that are due for the first week of class? Because there's no emails coming in or nothing on Blackboard yet, because it's not active.
Yeah, your assignments?
Yeah, like just reading assignments for first.
Okay, yeah. So you should, a lot of professors email their syllabus out in advance. If you haven't gotten that, it might be that you are expected to come to class on the
Okay.
first day. I have readings for my classes and have sent the syllabus out just so that they can be doing those readings. But that's the only way you would get that information. Because
Right.
you're right, Blackboard doesn't officially become available until Tuesday. Yeah?
50/50 research class?
Yes.
It's a long line class?
Mhm.
I heard that.
Okay, yeah, so has anyone heard from 50/50? No.
It starts Monday, so
Okay, so, oh, it's Monday, it's a Tuesday class?
Tuesday.
Tuesday class? Okay, you could email the instructor or wait for that instructor to communicate with you. That is an EPSI class, so that's the only class you're gonna take outside of our department. So I actually, Dr. Prozek, I don't know if you can help me here, do you know anything about EPSI 50/50, if they need to be doing anything in advance? I don't really know either. I
I would say if you haven't gotten an email, then you're not expected to have anything done.
Yeah.
If you were in my class, you got an email a week ago, because I don't like any excuses. I don't
Right.
want to be done on the
Yeah,
first
so
day
I would
of class,
imagine
but
wait until
enjoy. You're gonna read plenty this semester, so enjoy the last couple days of
Right.
that reading.
Yeah, I would wait for instructor contact on that one. Yeah.
Do you know what site it is that we use for that though? Because we don't even know what site it is, like for the.
Okay, for the online class, I imagine they're gonna get you the information on
Okay.
Tuesday then. It could be that instructor is prepping that right now, and you'll get some information right before class. So I'd be available during the time of your class, but, and that actually, why am I trying to do this? I don't know the answer to this question. I think you should ask your student panel, that is all taken
Oh,
50/50.
yeah. So smart. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, why am I floundering trying to think of an answer? I don't know. I think they'll probably know when they get, yeah, so keep that in mind and make sure you ask them. Yeah.
To our UAT email or to the email that we put?
No, it should be your UNT email. Yeah, and that's why it was so important to do what Rita said, to link your Gmail account or if you have another one, but everything's always gonna come through UNT's email. Yeah.
Do you know if that class is offered in summer?
If what class is
The
offered?
FC.
I believe it's offered every semester. I don't know if I don't think it's online all the time. So sometimes it's face-to-face, sometimes it's online. But yes, it's offered summer. Yeah.
Okay, for the master student handbook, you can go to the College of Education, they have a laboratory, and you can print your handbook out there. I forgot to mention that important topic.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, so you've already paid for the services, so you might as well go print it and get it printed for free, okay?
Yes. And that's helpful for a lot of your classes, that's part of your student fees, so take advantage of it. Yeah.
I'm an employee here as well, so I have an @UNT email. Is that going to be what I use to do it? I can't find a my @my.unt. Do I have to manage both of those?
You do have to?
I think so, they give you separately.
Okay, I can't, because you go to the my UNT website
Go to
and I
your
can't
student
find it.
tab, and it'll give you a separate email address that you can link to your staff one,
Really?
right there with you.
Okay, do you know where that is? Can I come to you later?
Yes, I think there's a little thing that says your email center.
Yeah, I was looking there.
It should connect to your student one,
And, okay,
through the student tab.
okay,
Nice.
thanks.
Students helping students. Great. Yes.
The TK20, is that something that we, supposed to have before class, or is that like a time on it?
Yeah, so you're not actually gonna use TK20 your first semester until the end. So, but you need to have it purchased within the first semester. Yeah.
Are there any other online courses?
Nope, so EPSI is our online course and everything else is gonna be face-to-face. And we do that because just philosophically, we believe that to develop counselors, we need to be seeing folks in action here face-to-face on campus. Yeah.
For the internship, it's 20 hours a week that you're doing that. How many hours in practicum are you seeing?
That's a good question. So you have your practicum class, which is about 4, and then you might have like a 4-hour block where you're available to see clients. But then we have clients who need to say, I need to see a counselor at 3 p.m. on Wednesday, so if that's in your block. So typically, I might allot like 8 hours of being available for practicum.
And then, so you're not required to see like the same clients throughout your practicum?
Yes,
I mean,
we do.
Oh, you do?
Yep,
you
so
have
you'll
to-
be assigned, you start with 2, you'll be assigned 2 clients, and you'll see them through the whole semester. And then they will add on more clients. I think you get up to 4, maybe up to 5 for folks who are looking to work with a child or want to see a couple. But yes, you're going to maintain that throughout your practicum semester.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Any other questions? Okay, so let me tell you what we're gonna do now. We're gonna go ahead and go on break, but before you do that, I would ask that you fill out that advisor form for me. And then, when you go on break, if you'll just bring that form up here, leave it with me. You can walk around outside, grab a snack and some water, use the restroom. We're gonna come back here at 3:15, and you're gonna hear from a student's perspective, and then we'll talk about the clinic and your required counseling sessions, and then we'll have a couple of panels. So you'll be able to get all your questions answered from a variety of perspectives. So plan to be back in this room to get started right at 3:15. You can take a break. Great, put them right here. Thank you. Okay.